Okay. I call the February meeting of the Park and Recreation Advisory Board to order. Welcome, everybody. We'll do roll call, please.
Okay. Coiner.
Here.
Duffy, absent. Lemick, absent. McBride. Here. Okay. Peterson.
Present.
Schertz.
Here.
Spratt, here. Thomas. No. Absent. Okay, maybe late. Trees. Here. And Woods. I can't see. I don't think Woods is on either. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 members. That'd be a quorum.
Okay.
Madam President.
We have a quorum
Madam
at
Chair.
this meeting, so we have a first item of business on our agenda, and that is to approve the October meeting minutes. And I would entertain a motion to do so.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Is there a discussion in regard to that agenda, the October meetings? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those approving the minutes of October 2020 signify with yay.
Yay.
Nay. Hearing none, let's put that item of business to bed. It's been a long time to do so. So thanks everybody for being present that we could finish that item of business. I see no public members present, so we'll move on to new business. On the agenda is a presentation by Cole McLeod, and he's introducing the corporate games.
Cole is our sports and leagues supervisor for 5 years. He just got, well, he was supposed to get his 5-year pin, I think, in December. Or November. But we finally were able to give that to him recently. And one of the things he recently has been working on this last year is these corporate games. So he's going to tell us a little bit more about that.
You want me up front here? Up to the podium. Okay. There's a mic above you. All right, so like Teresa said, I am the sports and league supervisor, so I started in November of 2015, so it's been a little over 5 years for me. So my main responsibility is youth sports, or there's like 3 areas that I kind of focus on. So youth sports, so formerly Dad's Club sports, which consist of spring soccer, t-ball, softball. We have a track and field program that we partner with Corn Belt Running Club. They do the programming, we do the registration side of things. Fall soccer and youth basketball. The soccer is our 2 biggest components of the youth sports. I know we're up, our registration just closed for youth soccer. We're in the late registration period now for spring. And we're up like 250 registrants from the fall, so it's really looking good compared to last year. And then also, so the youth sports is where we do not keep score. It's mostly, trying to teach the kids how to play the game, all that kind of stuff. And then the other aspect of my job is the competitive sports, where we actually do keep score, and that ranges from the youth for indoor up until adults. So we have adult indoor and outdoor soccer, adult and youth indoor soccer. So we have around 44 games per week on the turf right now. So it's pretty busy, and it's been a good turnout, all things considered, with the COVID situation. And adult volleyball, when we can use the gym space of the schools, and adult softball at Lindsay Park. And then the third aspect of my job is renting out the sports fields. So I rent out Lindsay Park, the softball field there. And then soccer complex, we have 13 fields that we rent out during the week and weekend between different games and different clubs that utilize that facility. And Centennial Field, the lighted field down by the dog park and the skate park, which is mainly utilized by the Palmer rugby team when they're able to have games. But the really thing we're excited about this year is the corporate games, which is going to be June 1st through July 31st of this summer. We have over 20 sports and events that range from bowling, a fitness walk, dodgeball, ultimate frisbee, cycling ride, tug of war, sand volleyball, trivia. We have a blood donation aspect of it, and we have many more. So we have between 20 and 25 events that we're focused on this summer. And you can see they're all range from athletic and non-athletic. So some people can just do the trivia, or they can do 10 to 15, 20 of the events. So it's really based on what the company wants to provide. So we have individual and team ones. We're going to have a virtual one. This corporate games structure was it's been in Des Moines since 2016, and then in 2018 or 19 they started in the corridor with Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. So Chad approached me when he got the position of the director, and since he worked on the Iowa City portion of it, he brought it to me, and we've been working on it for about 2.5 years with the Iowa Sports Foundation, which is located out of Ames, and they do Iowa games, senior games, those kind of events. So yeah, some of the events are a mix of limited and unlimited participation events, like sand volleyball would be limited to like 6 or 8 employees, and then the fitness walk would be unlimited, that they could have as many employees as they'd like to do that. So it's open to all Quad City area companies and government agencies. So we're having events on both our side of the river and on Rock Island Moline side. We have a charity partner, so we're with the Children's Therapy Center of the Quad Cities. So a portion of the registration fees will go to the Children's Therapy Center. So for the employees that are eligible that register are regular employees, full or part-time, retirees, and interns. And so the companies have to pay either it's 100 or less employees, they pay $1,000, and they are able to do all 25 events. So it averages out to be about $50 per event. So it's a really good wellness portion of the companies. And it's not that much of an investment when you kind of think about it. But it goes up to about $4,500 for companies to have 4,000 or employees and beyond. So there's awards for the competitive events, there's medals, and then there's the overall award at the end of the competition in early August. We're still debating on where to hold that, and hopefully all the COVID things subside and we can actually get together and do that kind of stuff. And so how it kind of works is each company has an administrator, and once they register, that administrator's responsible for recruiting employees to join each competition. So they don't have to do all of them in each, so it can be just a variety of what appeals to that individual employee. And then we also have a dedicated website as well to the corporate games where we'll keep track of the events and scores and points and all that kind of stuff. And right now we have 3. If we add ourselves, we're most likely going to have our agency as participation. We have both casinos registered, so Rhythm City and the Isle, and Mid-American as well. And then I guess we're going to be 5, so we have Shife Hattery out of Moline too. So does anybody have any questions? That's kind of the overall view of what the corporate games is going to be.
How many companies are involved, you know?
Right now we have 4. If we add ourselves, it'd be 5. We're shooting for like 15 to 20 companies, but.
So you solicit to those people?
Yep, so we work with the Visitors Bureau and the Chamber of Commerce
Chamber of
to get the
Commerce.
word out there to those companies. And we have a webinar, we've had a webinar in December, January, and we're gonna have one tomorrow. So it's just kind of just a list of what we do and kind of just a 15-minute spiel between myself and the Iowa Sports Foundation about what the games can offer to those companies.
And depending on how big the company is, depending on how much they put in as a donation, or?
So it's the registration fee starts at $1,000 and it goes up to about It is up to 4,500, depends on the number of employees that company has in the Quad City
Say,
area.
for instance, John Deere, I mean,
It would be, it'd probably be the 45 or
Up.
4,000 or $4,500
and that all
range.
goes back into this children's,
So a portion of it does. The other aspect of it is that just upkeep. So it's a nonprofit, the Iowa Sports Foundation will receive that payment and they just,
it's a nonprofit.
yep, it's a nonprofit. So it's just to sustain those events year to year.
Okay. Sounds great. So it's been all over the place, huh? I didn't realize that.
Yep. So I know the Visitors Bureau is sponsoring our medals because the medals is a big portion of
Yeah.
what we need. So, yeah, they stepped in and they're
That's
doing a lot of
probably
work
your
as
biggest
well.
expense.
It is, yes. So, yeah, we're really excited. We have all the Parks Rec departments in the area between Moline, Rock Island, us and Bettendorf. We're all participating and trying to get the word out of different facilities as well that maybe most people wouldn't utilize. But this will give them opportunity to do that. So we're going to do golf at EMI's as well. Let's put one of the events.
So how do you contact these companies? I mean, you go out and solicit them, you'll win and go and,
So yeah,
Make
most of it
appointments.
is through like the chambers connections. So they reach out in the Visitors Bureau as well as reaching
so
out to
they're
the
the
companies.
ones that would be kind of in charge.
Yeah, they're kind of the recruitment of the
Okay.
companies. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Cole, I have a question. Who is in charge of arranging the sites for the events? Is that,
So it's kind of been a joint thing between myself, Matt Beatty, who is the CFO of Iowa Games, and the Visitors Bureau's been a big part of that as well, trying to find outside of Park and Rec departments. Like we're focused on like they were helping with like finding a trivia location. Like we're using the Stony Creek and Moline for this summer's events, and trying to come up with a deal to help out because they're gonna let us use that facility for free, but they get the alcohol and food sales during that. So it's been a lot of just kind of trying to figure out who is going to help out where. So we're still working on partnering with like a 5K to do in the area. So trying to help both ourselves and them with numbers, and also we've reached out to some of the local breweries about a cycle ale trail ride too. So just kind of trying to get all those events kind of, helping each other out for the summer.
so the events are a stationary piece, in other words, then you fill in where that event will occur, or are we locally able to create our own
So
events?
we created our own. So about 2 years ago, we came up, we had Matt Beatty come down and we did an area kind of tour of what we could offer, different events. Like we're going to do pickleball at the Northwest Pickleball Courts because that's really a great kind of new facility that we have. So, and then we're also going to use the pickleball club because they're very, they're very willing to donate their time and teach the game to new people. So that's a big aspect of trying to get them out to places where they normally wouldn't be at, these companies.
Sounds like you're very busy then.
Yes.
Other oh, go ahead.
No, I prefer to be busy rather than not be busy. I know how that looks, especially this past spring, so.
Is that all in one weekend or?
No, it's going to be from June 1st to July 31st,
Okay.
between a mix of weekends and nights during the week.
I think I read that now.
Are there other questions for Cole? I learned a lot in a very short time period, so that's good, for me at least. Other questions?
Not a question. I'm just excited to see something like this in our area. I'm really trying to get my employer, Modern Woodman, on board, but I haven't gotten any bites yet. So.
Yep, we have until March 1st, and that's our soft deadline. I'm sure we'll take on more companies once they try to convince the higher-ups. So we'll probably take some more through mid-March. So still have about a month to go for that.
Well,
If I could just, I'll interject one thing, sorry. The whole COVID thing and with businesses right now, I mean, it's a tough time to really launch this. So we're going to be cautiously optimistic with the first year numbers, but I'm confident as the country and the economy and everything sort of comes back. This has been a program that's been successfully run in the Des Moines area for
5
close
years.
to 5-6 years now. Iowa City launched 3 or 4 years ago. It's a good aspect of a company's health and wellness for their employees. It builds a lot of opportunity to build coworker engagement and socialization, and then also bring a sense of sort of area pride and competitiveness. So we're not likely going to see, maybe like Tegan said, trying to get her employer to bite this year. A lot of companies, and particularly small businesses, probably won't have the resources maybe to jump on board this first year. But we're confident that it will grow from year to year to year once we get back to normal.
Yes.
We hope to eventually, so.
And then there also, if you do have a company that's less than 100 individuals, then we could have different companies partner with each other to cover that registration fee as well. So, very exciting.
Great.
Long time
Well,
coming. And I'll leave I have some business cards. I'll leave that with Jess if you guys want one. So if you guys have any questions that come up, don't hesitate to contact me by phone or email, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Moving on our agenda, our next item is the River West report that all of us have a copy of. And we will have discussion about that.
I'll sort of just give a real quick background. This strategic planning process, if you recall, grew out of what was, or at least on our end, what was the Credit Island Subcommittee, evolved into this in partnership with the Riverfront Improvement Commission, who had identified this area as part of their strategic plan. I know we had several, I know Jerry was involved from our end. Mike, were you on this as well? And then I know Wendy, I think you were maybe virtually at a couple meetings, so we had some involvement. The idea here today is not to really necessarily go into the details of the plan, unless, we can have a discussion if people have any questions, or for those who maybe were not directly involved in the process. But we do need to have action to accept the plan. And what I want to be clear on is, by accepting the plan, we're not, it's basically just accepting that it was presented to you guys and you have it in your hands, right? It's not, and the reason I'm bringing this up, at the last city council, I don't know if you watched, they accepted the downtown district's master plan, and there was some debate on the verbiage of the motion and all this, and what, does that, commit the city to funds and executing the plan? This does not, right? It just is merely, you guys have been presented the plan, you've seen it, you're accepting that fact, and then going forward, it'll be up to staff to really look at the different parts of the plan and bring things forward through budget and CIP initiatives to implement stuff. And at that time, you'll get into more specific details of stuff that'll come out. Because if you look at the plan, it is very broad in nature, because it is a strategic plan, and that's its intent. It doesn't get into really the specific weeds of particular things. So with that, I just wanted to give that background on it, and I'll, let you guys have the floor to discuss anything or ask any questions.
I looked this over and I think it looks great. So for the beginning, I move to accept the River West report as written.
Do I have a second on Leah's
I'll second it.
discussion?
I just want to make a couple comments is all.
Fine.
I've been to those meetings, and there was a lot of work involved with that. And I think the main thing is that we're finally getting involved throughout the whole riverfront, all the way down to the city limits of the city of Davenport. So I think with that in mind, there's a lot of work to go forward here, but at least we're on paper. and there's recognition there. And I think that's the main thing that we really wanted to do, where before we had none. So thank you very much, Chad, for pushing this forward, and same way with the city council and Steve Aarons as well. So anyway, so I think that's a great program. Thanks.
The one thing it does too is all the meetings, it breaks it down into areas because it was so overwhelming to consider the whole thing at once. At least this separates it out that people can see and start to think about certain areas. I think that was really important.
Leave a message.
Okay. We have a minute. Okay. Do I see our remote participants commenting?
I would like to echo Jerry and thank everyone involved for, getting together and putting things down on paper to move forward with this area. And it's nice to see this area getting some attention. So I really appreciate that. Obviously, I like all of the wildlife viewing opportunities, talking about that and more recreational activities being offered, kind of expanding on the recreational activities that our parks and open spaces can offer. So I definitely am excited for some of these new opportunities that will that can be potentially created by addressing these areas. So.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Adriana, for your comments. Are there other callers? I'm trying to.
Richard, I see your mic is on. Did you have a comment or question on this one?
No, I was just waiting for the vote, that's all.
I do have a question. I haven't seen an updated Veterans Memorial Plan. The last one that I had seen mentioned something about a 10,000-seat amphitheater. Is that still something that's planned for this area, like the Upper West area?
So the amphitheater portion that you're referring to, Adriana, yeah, is part of the Veterans Memorial Park Master Plan, which was done, long before I arrived. That is in an outlying, I think, phase. The next phase, I think they are looking to develop through the CIP, and there is actually funding in this upcoming fiscal year. To do that would be the River Overlook section, and then we had applied for a REAP grant to do some invasive control and clearing and grubbing, and then some grading work, which would, yes, set that future phase that included the amphitheater. In regards to an updated plan, I don't want to get confused. I don't think there's any intent to update the actual master plan document that was set years ago. But as we look at each individual phase as funding becomes available, we'll review exactly what's in that particular phase, if that makes sense.
Okay. And then as far as like funding for addressing the landfill issues, is there any idea on where that might come from, or what some of that addressing the landfill might look like?
I guess I'm not familiar with what the landfill issues you're referring to are.
It just says that under operations of the Upper River West area.
You're back,
old
okay.
landfill.
I'm sorry, you went back to the River West plan?
Yeah, sorry.
No details and funding in any of this part of this plan have been discussed to this point. So I don't have any idea on, my guess would be we'd look at some environmental grants and some opportunities potentially through natural resources to work on that.
Okay, thanks.
I hear no further comments, so we will take a formal vote at this time with, your name will be called, and please signify yea or nay.
Yes. Coiner,
Yes.
McBride. Schurz.
I'm sorry,
Aye.
I'm reading.
Oh, Spratt, yes. Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay. Trees? Yes. Okay. The motion passed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a full agenda, as you already know, but we do have another item under new business, which is discussion of the Park Development Fund list. And so we'll proceed with that. So, Chad?
Yeah, so this is probably one of the more fun exercises we get to do on an annual basis with the Park Advisory Board, and I don't know what your opinion, it could also be the most excruciating as far as trying to make decisions and prioritize, because the list we always bring you guys each year is usually far more than what the funds are allocated for it, so, with that, we have a little presentation we'll go through, and I'll give you a little background and how this works. We're not changing any part of the process this year that we've done in the past. So today we'll go through the list of proposed projects and with the descriptions, and between Teresa and I will explain them all. At the end, we'll be giving you guys a score sheet and ask you guys to rate these programs, these projects, low, medium, high, and then we also ask you to give us your top 5. From there, we have a formula to apply points, and then those shape out into a ranking. From there, I send that on to City Council for them to also prioritize and rate using the same method. And then we take the combination of Park Advisory and Council priorities and scores, and then I bring that. Pretty much will be what the final slate looks like, and then we'll bring that back at the March meeting for you guys to approve the final slate. From there, it goes on to City Council for actual formal adoption of the Park Development Fund, and then we start with funding as of July 1 in fiscal year 22. So, sure. So the purpose of the Park Development Fund is really a way to fund small to medium projects through our capital improvement program. It's been funded, I don't know, for quite a while. Most recently, though, last year and going forward, it was increased. It used to be only $250,000. It's now funded at $350,000, so we got a little bit extra money to do more things with. Historically, typically, we look at facility projects, we look at playground replacements, we look at fund new initiatives like Cosmic Golf. For last year, we bought the movie theater package that add to our recreational programming opportunities. So the real purpose of the fund is to help us sort of tackle these small to medium sized projects that don't necessarily make a good standalone CIP project. Typically in our capital improvement program, which is generally funded through general obligation bonds, we look at projects that are 75,000 and above or 100,000 and above to really be standalone sort of projects. So if we were to take all these, smaller projects and throw that in there, it's just really a mechanism to group priorities and get a slate of projects put forward that we can accomplish in a year, so. Okay, so in front of you on the screen, we're looking at last year's projects. And I wanted to just provide this and then also give you sort of a status of where we are on all these projects. Unfortunately, this past year has slowed things down in certain areas and trying to get things done. But we are on track to complete all of them, probably by this summer or early fall at the latest. So, but this is an idea of what last year's projects. I'm not going to read them all, but they're there for your information. So with that, we're going to roll into the projects proposed for this year. And the first one we have is walking path at Wayland Park. If you're familiar with Wayland Park, it is in the 8th Ward. It is in the northwest portion of the community. It serves a relatively large neighborhood and apartment complex. The park itself is relatively insignificant in terms of amenities. There's a playground, a shelter, a basketball court, but it has a great lawn area. So, and part of the problem around the park is there's not sidewalks. So the idea of this project is to create a aggregate base ADA approved walking path throughout the park that would give residents and neighbors the opportunity to basically exercise and walk and get out and about and enjoy the park. So $50,000 is the estimate on that. Credit Island Lodge upgrades. So this is just some aesthetic improvements to the lodge, interior paint, repair, paint or cover. I need to read it from my sheet. I can't read it that far. Repair, paint, or cover concrete floors, hallways, restrooms, and kitchen areas, restroom updates and finishes, window treatments, and storage area improvements. And that's a $25,000 project. Vanderveer Stone Bridge beautification. So this is one that came to us sort of through the Friends of Vanderveer. And they've agreed to match $5,000 of the $10,000 project. But if you're familiar with the Stone Bridge, it sort of sits off on the east side of the park, southeast side of the park. The plan is to create more flower beds around the bridge and adjacent areas, extend water and electric for maintenance. And this area is often used as a photo op by people who visit Vanderveer. So we felt that enhancing it a little bit and sprucing it up would be a nice addition to the park. North Gaiman Playground replacement. So we have 3 playground options this year, and I want to pause briefly because we have funded for the first time this year in the CIP as a separate playground project, playground fund. And its intent is to either fund a couple neighborhood replacements or a community park special playground, similar to perhaps an example would be doing another obstacle course style playground like we did at Sunderbrook, or to do a larger than just average, destination type play area in maybe one of our community parks like Duck Creek or Emice or Credit Island someday. I just make mention of that because we still want to also include playgrounds in this as well. We have roughly 38 playgrounds in our system, and we're still probably 7 or 8 behind on that should have been replaced and updated years ago. So we are still in the process of trying to catch up. But in the Park Development Fund, we've identified 3 smaller playgrounds. So you could maybe pick one or two or whatever, and still have funding left over for other projects. North Gaiman is, it's our oldest playground, and this would replace the existing playground, similar size, similar equipment, and the existing footprint. The soccer complex playground is actually a new playground. This would be an addition. We don't currently have a playground on the soccer complex, but it would be a nice addition to, it would be adjacent to the concession area. It'd be a small to medium-sized piece and would create opportunities for those siblings who are watching their brothers or sisters play soccer and waiting between games. It's not uncommon to have play pieces in athletic complexes. So that's the idea, to add this piece to the soccer complex. And then the Northwest Playground, ages 2 to 5. So this is a preschool age, 2 to 5-year-old small top piece to be added to the existing playground at Northwest. And this project was identified through our alderman in Ward 2 in Northwest Park from feedback she had received from some residents. So that's the playgrounds within the program. The next project is the community bike rack project. So I'm going to sort of give credit to Mr. Schertz on this one. It was sort of his idea to work with the local, the idea is to work with our local welding classes at our high schools. In particular, we've worked with Andy Zinn at West on numerous projects at Fedge and Vanderveer, but to come up with sort of a unique design for a bike rack that then we can work with them to manufacture or fabricate for us, and then we would put them out in various parks throughout the community. So this would initially probably fund 3 or 4 to kickstart the program, as well as the design. So it's a unique opportunity to partner with our school kids again, and then do something unique in the parks with a unique design for bike racks. Nahant Marsh improvements. This came through actually Brian Ritter and his team. They are looking to add some security cameras to the marsh and then update some doors that need to be replaced. Pretty straightforward request. Eastern Avenue disc golf baskets. So this is a project that actually started with the public and this group of avid disc golfers that have approached us about wanting to replace all the baskets at Eastern Avenue, and they are actually fundraising to complement the project. The group has raised about $4,000 thus far, and they are anticipating raising another $3,000. So our contribution to the total $15,000 project would be $6,000, and this would replace all 18 baskets with Mach 10 top-of-the-line disc golf baskets and 38 additional pin placements to give the course much-needed variety. Prospect Park Hillside Covering. Okay, so this one is sort of a result of the Prospect Park Subcommittee's findings and discussion about replacing or installing some ground cover in areas where, or to create more of an aesthetically pleasing look in certain areas. So staff went through and identified 3 areas of the park. So when you rate this one, you're going to first rate overall if you think this is favorable, and then which option you would prefer. And then you can see option A, option B, and option C. Option C is a combination of both A and B, and that would do that whole area. The west side of the park would still be, it's still an area where we'll contract and mow and keep as low-lying grass. So really it's comes down to if it's a priority for you guys and how much you really want to fund. Certainly, if you look at option A as a starting point, and then, we could always come back next year and do option B and complete the work, or if you feel it's a high enough priority to complete it all, then you rate option C high. Goose Creek Park restroom. This came through Alderwoman Lee's and Mike's tour of the Eighth Ward parks, and with the addition of the disc golf and the splash pad at Goose Creek Park, the park is getting more and more active use. So the idea would be that it needs a park restroom. The price tag on this is relatively high. It's $130,000, and that's an estimate that our planning department and Public Works gave us, and it's also based off of the last two restrooms we did, the one at Slattery and Lower Lindsay. These are prefabbed, constructed restrooms that are tied to sanitary. High price tag. I think I responded to a question from Mike and Wendy on this, that this may be one that is better served as an individual CIP, but I would say it's definitely needed for this park because of the increased activity and use of the disc golf course. So it's just a matter of prioritization if that price tag is something you want. I mean, it would take roughly a third of our fund to fund this one. All right, I'm going to turn recreation projects over to Teresa and let her walk you through these.
We, I think, only have 3 that we're bringing to you. Junior Theater, which has since the remodel, we really haven't brought much there. But I would say about a year and a half ago, Chad and I were starting to get emails from Daniel that there is an issue with their lighting. And at first, we're just making upgrades, immediate upgrades to the need to use the theater at about $5,000 a pop. So during COVID, when things were more shut down, he took the time to figure out what a total replacement would cost to upgrade it so that it would, 1, be easier to do, and 2, last for a lot longer. And that project cost would be about $80,000. He also took it to the Junior Theater Board again, and they committed to meeting it between 25 and 30, whatever the need would be for that. So that's why the ask would be 52 for us, and then the rest would be raised by the Junior Theater Board to make sure that the project got completed. Any questions about that one? They do usually do great things. So, the February holiday lights, you all know, you were out there. This is just to augment that with some more, and also to get us some speakers so that the sound can be done on site as well. And then the aquatic safety one is probably, I would say, the very, very important one. We really do need the mannequins for sure, even to provide our classes for our current lifeguards, with the option that we are opening pools and wanting to run them. And then it's some other safety mechanisms for the pool.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Moving on to golf and River's Edge. So the first project is at Duck Creek. It's a golf outing pavilion. It's a dual purpose structure. The idea is to build a structure that can serve as a outing pavilion as well as cart storage, overnight and evening cart storage when it's not being used as a pavilion. So if you're familiar with Duck Creek right now, unlike E-Mice, unlike Red Hawk, the Red Hawk has the large interior clubhouse. E-Mice has a larger outdoor shelter that we use for outings. Duck Creek has neither, so it really limits that course's ability to put on a good outing. And then the need for cart storage is also important because currently our carts just sit out in the weather. And it would extend the life of our carts and help with maintenance if we could get them into some sort of storage. You won't see this in here, but I know Jerry's probably itching to ask about E-mice and cart storage, but the future plan in E-mice is to renovate the existing clubhouse or replace it. And when we do that, the idea would be to do underground storage for carts at E-mice with that project. So with this, we're asking the Park Development Fund to fund approximately $75,000. Or excuse me, reverse that. Total project cost is $125,000. $75,000 of that would come from our existing golf CIP. It's a separate CIP we have for golf. So Park Development would be funding $50,000 of this project if prioritized.
I received an updated photo. So the one you see in the slideshow here with more of like the garage doors is what Troy has in mind versus a traditional shelter.
E-mice and Duck Creek golf restrooms, through a separate project a couple of years ago, or maybe it's only been a year, we did it. We did this, we made some improvements to the restrooms at E-mice, the ones that are connected to the clubhouse. This would do similar enhancements, flooring, painting, finishing to the on-course restrooms. So the ones that are out on the course in play. And they need some tender loving care. They are pretty rough, so. Red Hawk Golf Pine Street fence. So this was identified through some neighbor concerns, through aldermen, and talking through, if you're familiar with Pine Street, the holes that run adjacent to it, we've had a long-standing issue with balls escaping onto Pine and going across the street into neighbors' yards. There were several options discussed. This one is probably the most aesthetic, least costly, and most functional, but it's probably the least, will prevent the least amount of balls. So it's a mixed bag. It's in here. We did some due diligence in looking at a solution. We'll throw it in here. I'm not convinced it's the greatest solution. The thing this would help most would be stopping the low balls from going into the street into vehicular traffic. It's not going to prevent high ball shots from going across the street into neighbors' yards. And unless we were to do a 50-foot net all along that street, which would be, I think, pretty cosmetically obtrusive, that's really the only solution that would ever really solve those high balls from going over there or assist in preventing. So that's in there for your thoughts. Golf turf aerifier. So this would be a split use between parks operations and golf, primarily used through golf. It would enhance our ability to aerate the turf on the golf courses and lower our maintenance costs and use of pesticides and herbicides and other things. The more we can aerate more efficiently, the better the quality of turf can be for all the complexes. And then we can also utilize this out at the soccer complex as well. River's Edge equipment. So this is primarily updating or upgrading most of our concession equipment. Our concession equipment is, for the most part, original to the building, like most things at River's Edge. And we are in need of replacing some pieces. There's a list of them. I'm not going to read them all for you, but there's a list of all the different pieces that would be replaced and upgraded, as well as a digital menu board The one other piece of this is, the skate sharpening piece. There's it's the one piece that's not related to the concession, but we sharpen skates now, not only our rental skates, but we also have a program where, the general public can bring their skates in and we'll sharpen them. This is, my understanding from Ryan Devlin is this is a piece of equipment that will not only allow us to continue how we're doing it, but will enhance, allowing us to do, I guess, a couple different methods that we currently can't offer, but people demand of us. And I'm not an expert in skate sharpening, but this would enhance our service ability in that regards by replacing that piece of equipment. And I believe that is the last of our projects. Now I will let any questions or further information you want to know about anything we presented.
Real quick before we start questions, I will be sending out a PDF of the score sheet independently outside of the packet to everyone today to make it a little cleaner to score.
Can you
Thank
make
you.
it so you can
Hell,
do it right online? And if you send a PDF, I can't get it out of the PDF, I don't think.
I will make the PDF fillable for you,
Oh,
so you
okay.
can click and then
Thank you.
resubmit. If you want to fill out your sheets here, you're completed, you can turn those in to me today, or either way.
When do you need them?
Oh, so, okay, let me talk you through that too, before we go into questions. So timeline is ideally, we would like 2 weeks from today, if we could have your score
Okay.
sheets back.
I just had a question on the fence at Red Hawk.
Okay, hold on one second, Richard. I'll get to you. 2 weeks from today on score sheets, and then that'll allow me enough time to then distribute your scores to council for them to prioritize. So last year I sent them at the same time, and they wanted to know what your guys' priorities were before they scored. So this year I'm trying to time it so I can give them your guys' priorities as they score. And then they can get it back to me prior to the March meeting, so we can have the slate put together for you guys to approve
I
that
can
in
do mine
March.
today, it's just I'm not gonna be able to do it right this moment.
Go ahead, Richard. Red Hawk.
If he doesn't talk about the fence, I will. And put that picture back up again, please.
Wendy, I'll turn it back over to you to manage the discussion.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
I got a pro, hey, on the fence, the wood fence, you know, we all real,
He's cutting out, correct?
what the lifespan is. Is there any way you could go with some sort of chain link with a built-in mesh or something that would, you know, have longer lifespan?
Yeah, we certainly could, and that would actually also, I mean, we looked at that option. You could do a chain link. It would not only probably lengthen the life, it would lower the maintenance expectations, and it would probably be more cost effective as well. The only thing you lose is aesthetics. I mean, a wood fence looks better, in my
We have
opinion.
bad audio.
Is the fence thing like a huge hot button, or is it? Okay.
I would say I've had less than 3 comments from
Oh,
neighbors.
okay. 'Cause I'd say we could sure use 30,000 somewhere else in the parks for a lot better.
I would concur with you, Mike.
Can I speak now?
Yeah, Jerry, let's we're going to move on to Jerry's comments. Richard, you've cut out quite a bit, but we do understand your comments about the chain link or something other than the wood proposed. So, Jerry, go ahead.
Well, first of all, if you take a look at that picture, you've got what, a 6-foot fence there? See that tree way in the back there? Rather than that fence, that tree will be there forever and never have to maintain it, not unless we have a big storm again. But that would be the thing to do. But before we even think about putting a fence up there, and I had suggested this earlier, is that if there are only, especially when I just heard that there's only a couple, 3 people that are thinking about being unhappy about it, then I think we had to have a neighborhood meeting with these people. And we get, if I talked to Rick Dunn, and we can get all the trees we want for nothing. And it doesn't cost us a dime. It'll look a lot better and it'll last forever. That's what's on the golf course, trees. And that's what takes care of that. Now, I play golf, and I play golf a lot. And the only way that I would be able to be below that fence line is if I halfway missed the ball and I worm burned it. Other than that, it's going to go up at least 20 feet, at least. That fence is not going to do you any good except for the fact that it's just going to look ugly as it goes on towards time. And it's not a good thing. I just want to put my 2 cents worth so everybody in the board understands how I feel about that. And I'll fight it tooth and nail to the point where we do not need that. And you're right, Mike, we need to take that $30,000 and put it somewhere where it should be. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Other topics, I think we've heard about alternatives to the cost, and you can. I tell you what I'm connected with is maybe a little asterisk by some with a conditional comment at the bottom that can help with what's going on. So maybe that would be comforting to Jerry. So thank you for all of that. Other comments about other items at this time?
I'm actually curious about.
Who's speaking now?
I'm curious, Adriana.
Hey, okay, thank you.
I'm curious about the same Red Hawk situation. I haven't seen what the course looks like, but is it possible to redirect the course, just change where the hole is, so you're going away from that area?
Yeah, we actually looked at that. Actually, they looked at that before I was the director, and you could actually reverse the entire layout. You'd have to reverse the entire layout, but it would be extremely costly because we would have to rebuild all new greens to do it. I mean, the fairways would lay the same, but you'd have to build all new greens. So I don't think we're at the point to justify that, particularly with the operational, typically Red Hawk doesn't cover its costs to operate. So to put large scale capital into that, which wouldn't necessarily yield increased rounds or increased play. But yes, to answer your question, the long story is yes, we could.
Okay, thanks.
Was there a comment from Tegan?
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Okay.
Starting with the Goose Creek restroom, would it be 1 or 2 facilities, I guess? And would it be unisex like the one pictured there, or would it be a male and female?
You could do either way. The one we're picturing is like we did at Slattery, which is a unisex single stall.
Okay, so like the one in the photo. Okay.
Yep.
And then I think back one slide, Prospect Park.
I have one question. I was wondering, how soon is the Goose Creek restroom going up? I missed that. When is that to take place?
Sure. Beverly, so this exercise is an exercise in projects that could be funded. If that is prioritized through this process, it would probably, could go up as early as late fall. These are prefab buildings, so once we get the funding in place, it takes probably, I think, 6 to 8 weeks for them to actually manufacture the restroom, depending on their schedule. Earliest would be late fall, more likely maybe spring of '22.
What would be the cost of, rather than, how much more would it be for a bathroom for separate, comparable to that? Is it twice the amount of money, or is it?
No,
not
probably not. I can get you numbers.
Just a conversation is all.
Yeah, I don't think it would double the cost, because a lot of that cost is actually the mobilization and the connecting the sewer line
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff. The actual building itself, I want to say the structure itself was only about 75,000 of that 130. Everything else is overhead, and then,
I'd like to see a man and woman. That's what I'd like to see. I think that'd be better. I think the women would like it much better too as well.
yeah, I think at Goose Creek, that would probably be more viable since it is a community park. I think when we were looking at Slattery and Lower Lindsay, just the footprint of what we had to work with didn't allow for a bigger structure. So they went with the single stall unisex model.
You can move the $30,000 over to that.
Do we, Tegan?
Am I,
Oh, excuse me.
yes.
Good. I wanted to make sure you started a comment or two. Can you finish that up for us?
Yeah, so my question on the Prospect Park options, so if I heard you right, Chad, so the option would be like we could do A this year and maybe, defer B to a later year, but then option C looks like it's the same areas, but it's a higher dollar amount. Could you explain that discrepancy, please?
Right, so option C is basically a combination of A and B. It's both of them combined. So there's some additional planning with that. So if you chose option C, you would get it all done in a single year.
What is a creeping myrtle plug? What is that?
So it's a type of ground cover.
Is that like Sawyer grass? Is it a grass, or what is it?
No, more like an ivy, like a juniper.
Something you don't have to mow.
Right,
Right.
it's low maintenance, but it's more aesthetic than, I
Does-
think this was sort of the compromised, and I don't know if Wendy or Adriana want to chime in on this.
Does that turn into weeds after a while?
No.
I think when we look at that, I'll just make one comment. If you look at the green spaces on A, B, and C, you see in the middle, that's probably the steepest area. And so when you start to think about where the best is as far as starting, if there was a budget, I will have to say with my bias, the steep part maybe get taken care of, because I think the issue is having a good looking visual appealing area. And so it's like, and then when you look at C, that area, that's the steepest where in A, closer to the west side, there's going to be mowing maintained in, the area there that's not as steep. So we're looking at through B and C, kind of the steepest parts which pose the biggest problems, in maintenance and aesthetic looking environments. So that's all I want to say about that. So I'm glad that I'm going to go back and look, Jerry, after this at Google Creeping Myrtle and take a real good look at it, because I'm sure with those who made the recommendation, it is what we would want to see. or a variety of it. Yeah. Tegan?
I'm not familiar with the name creeping myrtle, but I looked it up and common periwinkle is coming up. I think that's what Judith mentioned she's got in her yard. But that plant is from the Mediterranean region in Asia. It's not native to this area, and it also can kind of be invasive. I would not recommend that plant personally. In fact, I would recommend that we maybe go a little deeper into looking into other vegetation types that might be more suitable. But before that, I still think that we need to address the French drain systems because, you know, the landslide was kind of the primary concern to prevent landsliding when that initial planting and the French drains were installed. And I still don't think that we have a final answer on what's even going on underground in that area. So that's super important.
Thank you for that. We have the full report and we gave it to Chad. So I think he's listening to your comments and we'll work with that. I'm just happy to see right now that we have brought forward some funding opportunities to address the aesthetic and maintenance issues. So I think we have to leave it there and see what evolves. That's my personal comment.
I agree. I would just recommend analyzing that vegetation option and maybe considering something more suitable and native.
I think it's been heard. I think that's
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I think we can certainly look at the vegetation. The key for this process is, do you want to really fund something to be done at Prospect Terrace? And we can certainly iron out the details of what that actual vegetation looks like and what's the best and how much we can get out of the funding at a later date. It's really, at the base level of this discussion is, do you want to fund an improvement at Prospect Terrace Park? Or are there other priorities in this program that you want to see done?
I have one comment that I'd like to make in regard to Wayland Park and the walking path. Wayland Park was one of those park areas that I did an evaluation on, and walking path was a suggestion of mine as well. But in doing so, I want to make sure that we look at the ADA accessibility and to make sure that the path connects the amenities that are there. And I think it is, but I just want to make sure that that's important. We have a shelter, we have the playground and the basketball field that, you know, that the path allows for an easy access to some of those areas. So that's the only thing in the design and development, but I support getting that done. It's a neighborhood area, it's heavily density, multifamily, and, you know, having that opportunity would be an amenity that would be enhancing exercise and involvement in families there. So that's it. We are getting very close. We're over time. So is there one or two other burning discussion items? We've done a great job of adding our input. So I will say, you know, let us know right now, or can we move forward and get to rating? Hearing none, I think we'll look at getting our task of rating completed. If we look at 2 weeks from today, I think my calendar says that'd be February 21st, correct? So that's the date that we have. And we do have staff reports to finish up. And Chad, is there more that you need to add in your reporting?
So just looking at my calendar, 2 weeks from today will be the 16th.
Oh, okay, I didn't have
Sorry.
it right.
Yeah.
It's the second, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, 7, yeah, thank you very much.
No worries. The only other thing I had in my report that I just wanted to let you guys all be aware of, in case you hadn't, is the tobacco-free park ordinance is on the city council agenda for tomorrow night, the first reading. So there was several aldermen were expressed interest in bringing that forward. There is an opportunity, if anybody's interested, public with comment, you can, or during its reading, there's a public part where you can speak if you so desire. They are allowing people into chamber to do so, or you can email the Mayor Mattson and he will read it into the record. So, but the first reading is on the committee of the whole agenda for tomorrow on that issue. And that's all I have.
Great. Are there comments or additional information you need from the staff reports that were part of our board packet for this meeting? Hearing none. Tegan, do you have a report from the Riverfront Improvement Commission?
Yeah, I do have a few quick points
Great.
here. So Steve gave just a quick summary of some of the projects that are going on. And there were a few that I thought might be of interest to our group.
Good.
So in the current fiscal year, beginning this winter is some work on the River Heritage Park. So that's the one over by the Quincy Times building and the new Y building. So the CIP for that, like I said, is going to bid this winter yet, and that will include extending the river walk, some improvements to the seawall and the green space, as the American and I believe Viking cruise lines are going to be coming there this coming summer or the next. I get mixed up on the years, but so there's some work coming to that park hopefully soon. He also mentioned that the Veterans Memorial Park Riverwalk, like Chad mentioned earlier in the meeting, is on the fiscal year 22 plan. And let's see what else I have in my notes. The Canadian Pacific crossings have been completed down on the riverfront. That was some good news. And then just lastly, there's going to be a bit of a push. He kept using the phrase riverfront refresh. You know, they're looking to do after the flood and COVID, kind of looking to do some more programming to re-energize that area. You know, making use of some of the newer amenities like the flex lot. So I'm looking forward to see what that entails. That's it from me. Any questions?
I do. Have they said anything, or has anyone said anything about the flooding that's gonna happen this year? Or with all this snow and what they've got up north, there's no doubt in my mind we're gonna get flooded.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Tegan?
I haven't heard any predictions
Yeah.
either.
I
They
haven't.
did talk a little bit about the flood plan, but they haven't mentioned anything specific to this year's flood level.
Yeah, I haven't seen any projections to this point. Yeah.
Okay, because that's always a big cost. That's what I'm saying. It's the only reason I'm bringing it up. The other thing is that a few years ago, W.G. Blocker, I'm not sure who owns that cement factory down there, was going to be moved down to the southern part of the county or the street or the city. And I think from tax purposes, somehow or another, they let them stay there. Is that going to continue, or is there ever any talk of making those guys move that thing down south?
I haven't heard anything and not familiar with the discussions, but I can ask some people.
I just wondered because I remember a few years ago that they were talking about making a move, and they didn't want to, and then there was a tax money that they didn't want to lose, and wasn't quite sure if it was going to end up down in Muscatine or something, or maybe, okay. I just wondered, because that's a big part of the
River Heritage. Yeah.
River Heritage, yeah. That's all. Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you. Advisory time is on our agenda, but we've done a great job of questioning, so I think we've had kind of advisory time informally with everything that's been presented. Is there anything else that we need to bring or note either to continue in an agenda item next month? Hearing nothing, I would like to request a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn our meeting.
Do I
I'll
hear a
second.
Good. Thank you. With that information, all signify yay for adjournment.
Yay.
Yes?
Nay, who wants to stay and have some more time? The meeting's adjourned. Thank you for attending. And get rate. Consider.